Ratifications. Motion to approve. Motion by Mel, is there a second? Second by Louis. Any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed. 6-0-0. Tonight we won't be counting John. We'll clarify on clarity on Robert's rule for now.
So, thank you again, John, for joining us. But I guess I just now learned from Chairman that your vote wasn't going to count tonight, and I guess I have a problem with that. I'd like to see John's vote count, and he took the time to step away from his other meeting to call in to attend to the tribe's business. And I know we heard from one of our tribal elders this afternoon on their concern with electronic mechanisms to participate in tribal business, but I guess I feel a little I think that's a little premature to act on one comment from one person in the room, and I am all for finding out what we can do and be consistent and work with Garen's office to identify the tools to do that. But it just seems like a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to just say John can't vote tonight. But I just want to share that, and that's one perspective, and also new information. I would like to have been a part of the discussion that John can't vote tonight.
Okay, I apologize. John, I'm sorry too. We should have discussed this. We can discuss this now. I'm gonna make a motion.
Well, I guess my motion would be to that electronic forms of participation are acceptable. I don't want to be premature in that motion either and not capture everything that we need, because maybe the membership wants to be able to see his face, but maybe one time John calls in and he doesn't have access to Skype, or and so I know that all needs to be worked out, but I don't want to be premature in my actions in the same kind of breath that I've shared with him not voting. So
Sure. There's a motion. Is there a second? Any objections to the motion? No objections?
My objective.
well, I guess I didn't know if I really made a motion. I will make a motion, but I guess the motion was that let me back up. I don't want to make a motion that isn't inclusive of everything that we need, but I don't want to not make a motion and prevent John from participating. I guess who decided that John couldn't vote tonight? And if it wasn't a motion, then who said he can't vote?
I'd like to say something here. Being the secretary and taking care of these minutes, we had a problem with this with prior meetings here, official business, where we as council, in our tribal constitution, it states that we have to follow the Robert's Rules of Order. And Robert's Rules of Order states that you have to be present in order to vote. I have no problem with him attending a meeting, but because he's not here in person, he cannot vote. So that's why I asked that he can do that, but I'm not going to take his vote until we get a training that he's going to set up for us and other departments, that we have a training on Robert's Rule of Order, and at that time then we can decide what we want to do. But until then, I don't think he should be able to vote.
Thank you, Chicky, for sharing that. I just don't think in your position you have the authority to tell any council member that he's not allowed or she's not allowed to vote. And as far as I can see and I can hear, John's present.
And, just for the record, Robert's Rules of Order does allow for teleconferencing. The guidelines is that that I can hear everybody and everybody can hear me at the same time and see me if it's via video.
But just like today, it went off and you were absent a couple times. And what you're saying is that that's for larger groups of meetings, for a larger amount of people, that they use that. But in a smaller situation like this one, it states you have to be present.
Yeah, my only concern with that is our tribal council is very influential, and we are leaders in Indian country, so we are going to be part of organizations as far as boards. And my real concern is that if we continue to do this, it can become a tactic for holding meetings when somebody is gone. So, in all fairness, I think we should have all the opportunity to work in Indian country and attend these meetings, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen with all of us.
But my thought on that is that we should be here. And by the looks of it, and from prior and now, it's like it's going to be a habit where someone's going to be gone to doing other things rather than being here at the table.
In my conversations with other tribal councils, it's a common practice. I mean, it's not something that is unique.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay, it is up to the tribal council. You guys want to proceed, how you want to proceed, a motion and second.
Mr.
Allow
Chairman?
it? Go ahead.
I think that, this is a good topic for discussion and a good, but it's not on the agenda, and neither was, that John wouldn't vote on the agenda. And I think in fairness to whoever may find themselves in these circumstances, we need to have further discussion, but I don't want to prevent anyone from voting.
Want to say something there, please?
Come to the podium.
I beg your guys' pardon for wanting to raise the issue right now, because I realize it wasn't on the agenda. I understand that. But as one portion of the tribal council, not one person can't make that decision. You guys all have to make that decision. The precedent was already set earlier today when you counted his vote. So I don't see why you would exclude him at this point. It needs to be formally added to the agenda, because Robert's Rules does allow for this now because of the generation that we're in. It may not have when the Constitution was created, but that's why that Constitution has to evolve. I mean, we have to be able to keep up with what's going on in the world today. And so as one tribal member, I don't see the problem. But like I said, you don't have policy in place. You don't have all of those things. But you already counted his vote once today, so I don't see why it would change at just a later point in the day. That's all I wanted to say.
Okay, it's just out of respect to the secretary. We will proceed on, and we will count John's attendance as a vote and include his vote. Reading of the minutes. (9/16/19) mid-month meeting. Your motion to approve. Motion by Louis, second by Eric. Any objections to that motion? No objections? Motion passed 7-0-0. 9/18/19, general council meeting. A motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Chair.
There's a motion by Mel, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Louis. Is there any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed, 7-0-0. 9/27/19, treasurer's report meeting.
Make motion.
Motion by Eric. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mel. Any objections to that motion? No objections? Motion passed, 7-0-0. 10/9/19, oath of office ceremony.
Hold on, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Tori, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Louis. Any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed, 7-0-0. 10/11/19, tribal council reorganizational meeting.
Move it.
Motion by Tori, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mel. Any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed, 7-0-0. Ratifications, ratify 5 signatures. Number 1, adopt amended resolution 19-195A, authorizing request for and approving withdrawal of ILCA land purchase.
Move it.
Is there a second?
I need to adopt this, yeah.
Second.
Second by Eric. Is there any objections to the motion? One abstention? All in favor?
Aye.
6 yes, 0 no, and 1 abstention. Number 2, approve travel VK for DC hearing and congressional follow-up.
Move, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Mel, is there a second?
I second.
Second by John. Is there any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed, 7-0-0. Number 3, approve purchase on 3 new vehicles from Billion Auto for Winnebago. Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Mel. Is there a second? Second by Eric. Is there any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed, 7-0-0. Number 4, approve the Rock and Roll Dream Tour concert and ticket pricing for Winnebago.
Move it.
Moved by Tori, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Louis. Is there any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed, 7-0-0. Number 5, adopt resolution 19-209, authorizing of signature authority for land purchase.
Could you explain this one?
Before you get into the explanation, I was just thinking, that this needed to be updated, but is it a matter of procedure that we have to ratify it first? Because now the signature people have changed with yourself and Kenny. I mean, excuse me, I'm like, you know, So this, so do we ratify this for the sake of, that's what it was at the time, and then we have to redo it?
Good question.
So can I respond to that?
Yeah.
So the resolution we have in the packet is resolution 19-209, and it's authorization of signature authority for land purchase road property. And so this is a resolution that we would have shared with the BIA, saying that these are our officers and these are our authorized, signature authority. And so, this was passed in September, and because of the delay with some of our meetings, it hasn't been ratified. So some of these are from September, and so, in my mind, we would ratify it because that took care of whatever official business was captured during that time period, and with those signatures. But now that we have new officers, we have to redo this resolution, or I shouldn't say redo it, update it with the new people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of.
So I guess I'd like to move resolution 19-209. I used to ratify it because I'm not using the right words.
Motion to ratify, then we need to update.
Yeah, so then we'll put a new one on the next agenda.
Motion by Tori, second by Louis. Is there any objections to that motion? No objections? Motion passed, 7-0. Number 6, Taylor Bass Emergency Assistance.
Make a motion.
Motion by Eric, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mel. Any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed, 7-0.
If we pass over number 4,
I moved that one. And you second, sir.
No, approve the Rock and Roll Dream Tour concert.
Yeah, he's second.
Okay. Number 7, approve Winnebago's HR department revisions.
Move it.
Troy moved it, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. Is there any objections to the motion? Manning doc and organizational chart changes. The changes were to combine training and development, turn into training and development specialist.
Mr. Chair, if there's any questions from the audience, they have to come up to the podium. So if you want to ask and then also, council, it's been requested that you guys, we're working on it, but due to the audio stream, we really need to get up on the microphone. So Chairman, if you can pull your microphone a little bit closer. Tori, Mel, Dusty, if you can pull that down a little bit closer. Those that are tuning in would really appreciate that.
And who?
yeah, I just wanted to know what the revisions were on that, and why it required a 5-signature deal here. I don't know what your policy is on that 5-signature. Because you're not paying, of course, you're not paying attention to the one that was signed by John Blackhawk previously.
It was ratified on October 15th. John Snowball, myself, Louis, Rollin, Thelma, and Dusty signed it.
So then the term emergency doesn't apply in the 5-signature anymore? You can 5-signature anything then.
Does anybody recall what was it? What?
I don't recall the exact reason. I could go back in my email and tell you why whatever meeting was postponed, because our original meeting was supposed to be on October 16th, and for whatever the reason was at that, or excuse me, that's when this was generated. I think it was between. Let me get you an answer so I can tell you for certain why the meeting was postponed. And so then we had all these things that were on the next agendas that ended up doing 5 signatures. And so it had to have been a treasurer's report then, because that's why we had Winnebago's business. So whenever there's a meeting postponed and whatever was on that agenda that's actionable that needs to move forward, 5 signatures generated, and then we ratify them at the next meeting. But I do want to find out, exactly why.
I would more than likely when there was a death in the community.
Okay, it was, what I understood was that it was for an emergency, for a death, and any child, Winnebago child that was in need of hospital care, I believe. So it was with that, or any time a check needed to be signed, if the date was set for, if somebody came in one day and the date was set for the next day or the day after, that would require a 5-signature if it was an emergency issue that needed to be resolved right away. That would be an emergency. I believe that's what it said on that sheet of paper that I had when John Blackhawk signed it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah. Only in circumstances if there's a death in the community do we.
Yeah,
We try to do most.
I agree with the
And-
5-signature on that, but I don't. Looking at this approved HR department's revisions, I don't see where you need to ratify a 5-signature on that deal. You know just as well as I do, and as well as Mel, and anybody that's worked out at the casino, Human Resources has their own issues to solve, and they solve it with a meeting with the upper management. So I just don't understand your ratification of 5 signatures.
I'm just looking at the calendar here and trying to cross-reference those dates. So this was done on October 15th, and the next treasurer's report wasn't until the 27th. And so I guess I don't want to speak for Winnebago and the timeliness that they needed this done, but usually they only bring them forward at the treasurer's report. So I guess my assumption is that they couldn't wait till the 27th of September. But I'm not sure, because I was also on travel that week at the NIHB conference. But I will try to get you an answer.
Okay, because I know their cutoff date is September 30th, and their new fiscal year starts October 1st. So I can't understand why they would come to you with the Manning document revision. What are they doing? Their revisions That should be up to upper management over there at Winnebago's. Doesn't, what would it have to do here?
It calls for approval.
Emergency
From-
approval?
Well, from the gaming commission and then the tribal council.
And that's another thing, they have to pass it through gaming commission too.
So any time we get a request from Winnebago's, it always accompanies the full package. So, and also, let me make sure.
What full package is that?
Let me show you.
Okay, do you have the policy on the 5 signature then? Could I get a copy then? Okay.
Any objections to the motion? Moved by Torio, second by Eric. No objections?
Can I make one more comment?
Yes.
Just to clarify for those that may be listening and may be wondering, we're talking about a 5 signature we're ratifying for a human resource manning document change. And the request came from HR on September 23rd, and Mike Means and Mayan Beltran approved it on Mike Means approved it on September 23rd, Mayan approved it on October 2nd, and then the Gaming Commission approved it on October 2nd. And so I think the lag time was naturally maybe the election, the passing of our councilman, and so I'm just wanna find an answer. I don't want people to think that we're just doing
Yeah.
5 signatures, so leisurely. And but I'll try to find more information for you, Eileen.
Okay.
No objections to the motion? Any more comments? No objections, motion passed 7-0. Number 8, approve additional assistance for tribal member. This assistance was for tribal member William Ray Hamilton. He needed help with his driver's license. He's a tribal member. He got $250 from social services, and we helped him out with additional $750 to obtain his driver's license. Is there a motion to approve? Motion to ratify. Is there a motion to ratify? Is it? Motion by Mal, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Louis. Any objections to the motion? One objects. Tori? Any others? It will be 6-1-0.
I was gonna abstain, but I never asked for the vote.
Oh. Abstain? Or, okay, move it, make that an abstention. 6-0-1. Okay, go to, in your packet 2. Number 9, ratification. Approved purchase of turkeys. Amend amount before ratifying. There was a change in the,
It's confusing.
yeah.
Sorry about that, you guys.
Is the new amount, I make a motion to ratify the 5 signatures for turkey purchases for tribal members in the amount of $10,000 and $10,041.
Second.
Motion by Tory, second by Rollin. Any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion pass. 7-0-0. Item 10, tribal member emergency assistance. This is an electric bill assistance. Again, the Hill Human Services provided $250. And we approved $578.56.
Move it. Second.
Motion by Rollin, second by Eric. Any objections to the motion?
Object.
All in favor? Raise your hand, say aye.
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 John? Yeah?
Yeah, he said aye.
Aye. Yeah.
Okay. Tori, you
I vote
no
no.
or
I vote
abstain?
no.
Okay. Tori votes no. 6-1-0. Number 11, adopt resolution 20-32, approving NCAI membership, update of delegates and alternates.
I move it to adopt resolution 20-32. And I also have some discussion that I'd like to share.
Is there a second to Tori's motion? Second by Mal. Is there any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed. Oh, we got this discussion. Sorry, Tori.
Thank you. I just wanted to let the council know and also the membership on why I put this forward. This week was the National Congress of American Indians meeting in Albuquerque, Mexico. And I was originally scheduled to be there for NIHB business and just because I like to attend NCAI. And one of the things is that it's an election year for the National Congress of American Indians. And Chairman Frazier from Cheyenne River was running. And being that Chairman Frazier's from the Great Plains area and that we're trying to be more involved and we wanted to support Chairman Frazier, but the standing resolution on file with NCAI had our former chairman Frank White as the delegate, so we had to amend that so that our current chairman was the delegate, as well as we put all the other council members as alternates, and one of our general counsel as alternates, so that whoever's there is eligible to cast Winnebago's votes. And I don't know how many votes we actually have, but it's based on population. And so it was really important that we support our fellow Great Plains area tribe, and that those votes did not kind of go to waste, I guess, since none of us were able to make it. So thanks for letting me share that.
Daphne. Would I be wrong to say there was like 150 some votes? I thought I read that, yeah. Okay. Daphne?
I was just curious to know that, since nobody could attend, do they allow you to vote by proxy?
Yeah, and that's
why we had
to update that resolution.
So that Okay.
resolution provides that Nikki Doshino is our proxy.
Okay, that's just what I wanted to know. Thank you.
And she casts his votes for Chairman Frazier.
Yes. And I think today was voting day, so I don't know when those results will be out, but, wish him the best.
He got second.
Did he?
Oh,
That lady got first.
Fawn Sharp?
Yeah.
She's a good lady too. Well, darn, well, we voted.
Any more discussion? No discussion. Any objections to that motion? No objections? Motion passed, 7-0-0. Number 12, adopt resolution 19-171A, amend the home site lease. This is an amendment resolution 19-17A to amend Gabrielle Perales home site lease. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Mel, second by Louis. Any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed, 7-0-0. Okay, we're on to new business. Item 1. EPD, request for regional tribal operations 2019 fall meeting.
this one here.
Environmental Protection Department.
I'll move it.
Motion by Tori, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rollin. Any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed, 7-0-0. Number 2, new business, senior rock estimates.
Make a motion to purchase
5,000.
rock from the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska Roads Department in the amount of $5,007.10 to service our seniors.
Where are you getting 10 cents at?
It's on the estimate. Crusher rental, maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. Well, it's double-sided, so I maybe I'm looking at the wrong page.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I got 45 cents on one side and then,
Yeah. So, I'm not sure which one it's.
it's not clear to me either. Let's err on the side of caution, go with 45 cents.
Okay, I'm modify my motion to, collect $5,007.45.
Second.
Motion by Tori, second by Roland. Any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed 7-0. Number 3, new business. The Winnebago Tribal Council wishes to announce to vacate Tribal Council seat of Mr. James Snow. We are announcing that tonight.
Make a motion to announce that seat vacant.
Second?
Motion by Roland, second by Eric. Any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed 7-0. Old business. Resolution 19-207A, secretarial election.
Mr. Chairman, can we read this statement?
Would you like to read it?
Sure. So, for the, membership in the room and those online, before us, we have resolution 19-20207, the secretarial election request to amend constitutional amendment process. And, I wanna read the response that we have, from General Counsel. It says, Teresa, attached is an amended resolution for the Tribal Council requesting a secretarial election. It is pretty much the same as the first resolution, except that there's added a whereas mentioning that the Tribal Council requested once already in the previous resolution, but is requesting again. Otherwise, it's the same. I think they should be able to vote on it as a regular main motion and not just be sure to get 5 votes. A signature line for each Tribal Council member is indicated so that those voting in favor of the resolution should sign the document. Upon further research, under Robert's rules, the council can bring the motion again as a new motion and request a secretarial election again. It appears that the way Robert's rules reads, the previous motion has run its course. The resolution was a request for DOI to call for a secretarial election, which was then rejected due to lack of 5 signatures in favor. Therefore, under the amendment process, it functionally goes back to the start of the process. There is no need for the Tribal Council to rescind the original motion because under Robert's rules, motions cannot be rescinded if something has already been done as a result of the vote that is impossible to undo. RONR 11, and so the citation is there for that precedent. The motion requested that the DOI, Department of Interior, hold a secretarial election. The request has also been made and so cannot be undone. So the easiest course of action seems to be to just make a substantially similar motion again and pass it with the 5 votes. The Tribal Council should be able to bring up the motion at the next meeting. Under Robert's rules, the same motion cannot be brought twice at the same session. There is nothing in the tribal constitution or bylaws defining what a session is. According to Robert's rules, in a permanent society whose bylaws provide for regular weekly, monthly, or quarterly meetings that go in established order of business in a single afternoon or evening, each meeting of this kind normally completes a separate session. And there's also a citation here. So for the purpose of this motion, the next meeting is a new session and the motion can be brought back. I just had one comment that I wanted to make clear first. Some of the concerns that I heard from our tribal members was that they thought that a secretarial election takes away their voice, and I don't know if it's up for discussion or if we just want to make that clear that the council would never take the voice of by motion of the membership, and if anyone like feels that way or has heard that, I just want to like work with everybody so that we're all understand it, so we can be productive with it. So, because that's what I was hearing. Oh, the council took my voice, or I guess my vote doesn't matter, and so that's not what a secretarial election does. Thank you.
Thank you, Tori. Okay, what needs to be done with this? What are we doing?
So this is the new, from just by reading what Sheila sent, this is the new modified one. And this is where she added the whereas, so let's see. So it says attaches the amended resolution. So this is the amended resolution that if it's the will of the council to request a secretary election to amend the constitution process, we would need 5 votes to send this. And so, would we like to read this resolution? I mean, maybe turn it over to Chief Mayor, I don't know. But so that everyone understands what this resolution says and what it does.
This resolution was sent to the BIA, but they denied it because there was only 4 signatures
Yeah.
on it, and it requires 5.
Yeah, so pretty much we're redoing that. We just need 5 votes and 5 signatures. And she added a whereas, and so that's the only thing that's different.
Would anybody like to read this? Or shall I?
Chicky, would you like to read it? Otherwise I'm going to read it. I'll read it. It says, Resolution 19-207, Secretarial Election Request to Amend Constitutional Amendment Process. Whereas, the Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska is a federally recognized Indian tribe organized pursuant to Section 16 of the Act of June 8, 1934, as amended by the Act of June 5, 1935. And whereas, pursuant to Article 4, Section 1C of the Winnebago Tribal Constitution and its inherent powers of self-government, the Tribal Council is vested with the power, inter alia, to safeguard and promote the peace, safety, morals, and general welfare of the tribe. And whereas, pursuant to Article 9 of the Winnebago Tribal Constitution, the Constitution and bylaws may be amended by a majority vote of the qualified voters of the Winnebago tribe voting at election called for that purpose by the Secretary of the Interior. And whereas, pursuant to Article 9 of the Winnebago Tribal Constitution, it shall be the duty of the Secretary of the Interior to call an election of any proposed amendment upon receipt of a written resolution of the Council, signed by at least 5 members of the Tribal Council. And whereas, the Tribal Council seeks to exercise its powers of self-determination and take control of the constitutional amendment process and do away with the requirement of a secretarial election. Whereas, after careful consideration, the Tribal Council has determined that it is in the best interest of the tribe to request a secretarial election be held on the proposed constitutional amendment to revise the constitutional amendment process under Article 9 of the Winnebago Tribal Constitution. Now therefore it be resolved, the amended Exhibit A, proposed constitutional amendment, is hereby approved, and now therefore it be resolved, the Tribal Council requests that a secretarial election be called for the purpose of amending the constitutional amendment process under Article 9 of the Winnebago Tribal Constitution so as to no longer require a secretarial election in order to adopt a constitutional amendment as set forth in Exhibit A attached. So after reading that, this secretarial election is asking the Winnebago, we're asking for a secretarial election to not do the secretarial election anymore. And the only people that can determine that is the tribal members that will go vote that day and say, yes, we want to still have to do a secretarial election to modify the Constitution, or no, we don't want to do a secretarial election to modify our constitution. And so that's the question that will be posed to the tribal members that go cast their vote for this secretarial election. And on that day when this comes, I'm going to cast my vote to not have to do a secretarial election, because the way I look at it is we don't have to ask the Bureau of Indian Affairs, we don't have to ask the federal government to make changes to our constitution, and the tribe has inherent sovereignty, and that means that we govern ourselves and we have civil regulatory authority over the boundaries of this reservation. And so we shouldn't have to ask anybody, may we make a change to our governing document? And so that's kind of my perspective on it, and thank you for letting me share.
Daphne, come to the podium. I believe the process is, don't you vote by mail? They mail you a document and you have to mail it back. That's part of the secretarial election. Daphne?
I just wanted to add to what Tori was saying. I don't see how people think that's taking their voice away, because what it's doing is empowering us all to have a voice. We're all going to be able to say, you know, either we want the Department of Interior to keep governing our lives, or we're going to say we don't want them to keep governing our lives. I mean, we should have that power here, and we should retain every power that we have available to us.
Thank you. Cece?
I also support the tribe's quasi-sovereign status, and to have us self-governed. But what it's missing here is that there's nothing to replace. If you take the secretarial election with what that resolution states, there's nothing in there that protects the Winnebago tribal people at this point in time. You're taking it out, but you're not putting anything else in there. And that's what's missing at this point in time. And with the way that it reads, I cannot support that as one tribal member, and I would cast my vote no on that, because you're not putting anything else in the Constitution that's going to protect our voice. And that's John's on.
John.
Okay, so there's nothing in there to replace it. I mean, it would be at the will of this tribal council to do whatever they wanted with the Constitution after that. You could change our tribal council membership to 5 to 4 to 3. You can change it to 12, you know, and what would the people have to say about it? Nothing. So that's my take on it right now. There's nothing that's replacing it, and it shouldn't be anything that should be done easily. It should have to go through several procedures to get to a point if we're going to do it on our own. Thank you.
Thank you. Tori?
Thank you for saying that, Cece, because I agree with you that I haven't seen a draft of what the process is absent a secretarial election, but I'm just for not asking, and so this just says we don't have to ask. But I hope that it's a fully inclusive process on what we do next. But I would also call upon the Constitutional Revision Committee, and there's a standing committee that, several years ago, when there was questions about the Constitution, and so there's a committee that was charged with kind of doing some of this work on behalf of the people, and perhaps they pick this up and that's one of their subject matters. I don't have an answer, but I agree that I don't know what the what is, but I'm with not asking permission from the federal government anymore, where we have that ability to do that. And when you said quasi-sovereign, you know, we understand we still operate within these state rules, these federal rules, but this right here, we're in control of, and so I just kind of like, I want to exercise that, but I hear you. Thank you.
And I believe the secretarial election is more or less a process that we go through, and they're not telling us what to do. What they're doing is
Good?
Yeah, good.
So,
So what I'm saying is that, I think we need a clarification, because from what I see, we more or less are going through a process, and that secretary election, it sets out a process. You have to do this, five votes minimum. Yeah, and this is the next thing you do. They're not telling us what to do, but they're just setting out a process that we go through. And as one past tribal council member that sat here for many years said, he looked at it as a balance for all of us. So that's the other part I want to say.
Mr. Chairman.
Tori?
I would have to disagree, Cece, because several years ago, and I'm sure you were likely at the meeting, there was a process where we wanted to have two questions, because at that time, the two questions we wanted on the secretarial election was what the tribe wanted answered, and then we waited 2 years for them to tell us, no, you can only have one question. And so we sat for 2 years waiting for the Department of Interior to come to that decision on our behalf, that no, you can't have two questions, you can only have one. So it just like, why do we have to wait 2 years for an answer? And then the answer was no. So I still agree with you on some of your points, but I disagree on others.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the secretary election is, we are asking the people, and the tribal members will vote on this to not have. We're doing a secretary election to have the tribal members vote yes or no to not have a So it's not up to the council, it's up to the tribal membership, right?
But it's up to you to put it out there. And I feel like, think this all the way through. What are you going to put in there in our Constitution to replace that secretarial election? Let's get it all done right, because what happened to the last secretarial election with an enrollment? You know, there was a lot of things that that was left out of that enrollment, and look where we're at. We have a moratorium. And so, you know, think it all the way through. Don't just say, okay, we're just going to have a secretarial election to take it out. Tell us what you're going to replace it with, and perhaps you'll have more votes to say, okay, let's do this. But, you know, I would say don't pass it at this table until it's thoroughly thought through. And at this point in time, I don't think it is.
Demo?
I disagree with this because, like it says in there, to amend the Constitution, it goes through the secretarial election, and then the people decide whether they want that change or not. And if you remove that process, and then it leaves it up to the tribal council to make those decisions, and I do not feel comfortable with the tribal council having the full power to make those decisions when it's the people's decision.
Daphne?
It just seems like you keep coming back to the same point. You will already be asking the people if they want to do a secretarial election or not. and that's why I'm saying it gives the people more of a voice. You know, what are we doing sending paperwork all the way to Aberdeen to have it sent to the federal government and to have them come back and say no? And that's okay, because we can all agree to disagree. I mean, some people laugh at me when I say that, but I really mean it. You know, we're all adults, and I think we all have the best interest of our tribal membership at heart. You know, but some people think they're more Winnebago than other people, but we're all on the same roll. And so we need to be mindful of that. You know, when I hear people say, I love all my people, then act like you love all your people. You know, that's a bad thing to go out and say it and then not do it.
If that secretarial election process is removed, Tori, how is the people gonna voice their opinion if they're gonna change or make any kind of amendments to the Constitution?
I think that has yet to be determined, but based on how this process works, we've got 2 years or more to put something forward to the membership. I don't think, and I hope that you have greater confidence in your council that this council or any council moving forward wouldn't butcher the Constitution, and that the people, like you're here this evening, would never let that happen.
Dusty?
I would like to say, I would really like to pursue our sovereignty and make our decisions ourselves on a lot of things as well. But what I'd also like to do is leave as much ability for our people to have their say, even over the tribal council, because there's times when things don't go right. We've seen that in the past, and to leave that ability in our people's hands so they can make the adjustments needed for the tribe. We make the decisions for some of the tribe, but they make the decisions on who's here, and I'd kind of like to keep it in their ability with part of that transparency, to leave that with them. So I like to say about that.
As you were talking, Dusty, something came to mind that, and as I'm thinking of kind of the comments that are in the room and at the table, this conversation is going in the direction and the assumption that it's going to pass. Maybe it doesn't pass, but let's ask the question. Maybe there's an overwhelming response from the membership that they want to keep the secretarial election process, but until we ask that question, we'll never know. And I'm hearing the concerns, and I have those same concerns because I don't know who's going to be sitting at this table in the future, and I would want a very clear and defined way that happens. So I share your same concerns.
Benny?
John.
John?
Yeah, Chairman.
Go ahead, John.
I agree that we need to take over our own internal affairs. But if you ever read the secretarial election, if you ever read it, it's a pretty lengthy document. And to replace it with a few short paragraphs is, I think, kind of reckless. So I think there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't ask our people to jump out of a boat when there's no other boat to jump in. I mean, it really concerns me. I think everybody's agreeing, but I think we're skipping a step. I think we're really skipping a step here. And I think we're capable. We're capable of coming up with what we need to replace it with. We just need to put that into action.
Is that it, John?
Thank you.
Benny?
I was commenting on what Tori's been saying. You know, a lot of our people that never attended meetings and never heard what Tori just read about secretary elected and the process that we have to go through. So there again, I think, what Daphne or Cece said that, you know, the tribal council, if they want a secretary election, and then they're gonna have to, maybe put in the wind news that that's what we're gonna have. Because I think that's what happened before. We had a secretary election, back when, John and his crew was here. We had one, and then it was in the wind news, and everybody should have read it and more to understand yes or no behind what they're voting for. Okay, I just wanted to say that. Anyway, then another thing that we're doing, I say we because I'm a member of this tribe, and what we seem to do and not really realize that we're really messing around with our constitution and bylaws by amending them, rescinding them, wording this, taking this word out, which shouldn't be done because we're operating under how many resolutions and how many bylaws? Really? What are we doing? What are we doing this for? Because myself, I don't understand because every time we do something, we turn around, we're operating on some kind of resolutions. You know, that was really bothering me because, you know, that one thing we should never mess around with. You know, each one of you took an oath. You took an oath to help the people. The people, not individuals, not families, not one side of the table or the other, but you took an oath for everybody. And that's what I wanted to say to these newly elected. Because the people put you here to trust you as our leaders, our government leaders. So if we want to get away from the BIA, so be it. We did with education and land operations. Did education and land operations, so, you know, if we're going to go with a secretary elected, because don't we have to have a secretary election to have a secretary election? Yeah, we do. So there again, you know, we can discuss that for years and years and years and still be undecided. So getting back to our constitution and bylaw, you know, I just hope that, you know, we can all, you know, work together, you guys work together and decide on one resolution that'll make you guys strong and everybody else strong. You know, in the bylaws. So working together and doing things together is gonna make it. And common sense is gonna help you decide one way or another for all of you sitting at this table. Common sense. Thank you. Lord.
Yes, sir, Benny, thank you. As a tribal member, I believe it should be up to the tribal members. And also, I believe that we eventually are going to have to lower this blood quantum. Eventually. One more comment. Jeannie? Make the sun shine on this. Don't get mad, Benny.
Remember now, it's live streaming. I guess I would just like to say that we're either, I was kind of telling Daphne this, we're either going down a rabbit hole or we're in a wormhole. I'd rather be in a wormhole because that takes you somewhere fast. And a rabbit hole, you just dig, 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 dig. And it's really heartbreaking to sit here, come here, and to see the divisiveness. You know, Benny and I are getting up there. We are up there. And I've never seen it like this. Never. In all my years. People, when they were elected, maybe they campaigned. Maybe they campaigned negatively. Or put themselves out there positively and got on. But however way they did it, when they got there, they put all that aside and worked for the people. Did the people's job. Did the people's work. There was no snickering and meanness. Maybe a little, if it didn't go their way, but in the end, we were all one tribe, one family. And boy, I'd like to see that again before I check out of here. To know that you people did something great. You put aside all of that baggage, that negative baggage, and worked together for the common good of the tribe so that we will be here even next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, into the future, into that wormhole, and moving forward. That's what I want to see before I leave. I want to know that. And I bet you, if you ask them, I bet they want that too. Well, maybe some don't, you know. But the majority of them are going to want to be a tribe again. Because if we don't get there, we're not going to be here. Divided they fall. Divided they fall. And that's what's happening to us. So we got to get over that. We got to act as adults. Look at, we're the adults in the room. We can't play the spoiled little baby anymore. That baby's got to grow up and be responsible. That's all my family asks, is be responsible, be grown up, own your actions. Thank you.
Okay, council, let's take action on this. I would like to see us table this until we get that other seat filled for either a good yes or a good no.
Motion to table resolution 19-207. Or excuse me, that's the first one. Would it be the same number?
207A.
Oh, 207.
Motion by Tori.
Second.
Table. Second by Eric. Is there any objections to the motion? No objections? No objections, the motion passed 7-0-0. On to tribal council items. Request from the Iowa Department of Human Right for flag.
Which one is that? It's confusing when you got two.
This is a letter from the Iowa Department of Human Rights. This is addressed to the former chairman. Dear Mr. White, I'm writing to you on behalf of the Iowa Commission on Native American Affairs. We are asking permission to publicly and permanently display your tribal flag, along with those of many other nations representing Native Americans who have resided in Iowa. This display will be located in the state of Iowa's capital to raise awareness of the presence of Native Americans in Iowa, and we would like to be sure to include your tribe as well. Of course, we do not have one of your tribal flags. Therefore, timely receipt of it is critically due to factors concerning the historical elements of the Capitol building and the forthcoming ceremony to install the display. Also, we have an eagle for the finial topper for the flag stands. However, if you would like to include something different instead, please let me know so we can respect your choice. Thus, we would need to receive it later than Friday, November 1st, 2019. I would also appreciate a response to this communication to let me know if you would be sending a flag for this display.
Make motion.
Motion by Dusty, second by Mel. Is there any objections to the motion? And no objections? Motion passed 7-0-0. Item number 2, request from Teresa St. Cyr. Dated October 10th, 2019, Winnebago Tribal Council. Good day to you all, and congratulations on your newly elected officers and members. As you're aware, the unexpected death of Curtis St. Cyr has left our family, relatives, and friends devastated. He always had his fellow council members and the Winnebago people in his mind first. During his tenure as vice chairman, he took his office very seriously and tried his best to help wherever needed. At this time, we would like to request that the remainder of his leave and any that has been donated to be paid to widow Teresa St. Cyr. This would help her and his family financially with any debts left in his untimely death. Any consideration on this matter would be greatly appreciated. And thank you for your time. Signed, Teresa St. Cyr. Motion by Roland to approve. Is there a second?
Sec-
Okay, second by Louis. Discussion, Tori.
Thank you for making this motion on behalf of Curtis. The one thing I wanted to discuss in open session, the council had recently made amendments to the special procedures for tribal council, ethics, whatever, the whole sentence. And the change that we made in that, this was under Frank White's leadership, was that that annual leave would be able to be paid out. And it wasn't something that, it was just something missing in that document. And I understand that at the untimely passing of Curtis, we were able to use some of those hours to make up for the 80 hours. And so I'm glad that we could do this for him. But I just want to, I guess, for the record, say that that we did this because we didn't know we were going to lose either of those gentlemen. And but I don't want the expectation to be that we can go back however many years and maybe honor others in this same way. This is kind of just to wrap up and take care of the ones that we recently lost and to make it right with their families. And so I just wanted to share that on behalf of myself, and that I wouldn't pass a policy and retro it to anybody, but we didn't control when these gentlemen were called home. And so that's why I'd like to support this.
Thank you, Tori.
Thank you, Tori.
Is there any objections to the motion? No objections? Motion passed 7-0. Item 3, approve travel to Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board in Aberdeen, South Dakota.
Move it.
Motion by Rollin, second by Mel. Discussion, Tori.
Thank you for that motion. On the agenda is the next Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board meeting. And the first day, the meeting is actually on November 4th. And that is our next scheduled regular meeting for the tribal council. And so my intentions were to not go to the first day of the meeting so that I could be here. And then on the 5th, so the 4th and 5th is the Board of Directors meeting. The 5th is also Great Plains Area Indian Health Service consultation with Jim Driving-Hawk. He's the area director. And on the 6th is the Great Plains Area Budget Formulation meeting. And so they're all really important meetings, but I had asked the chairman if I could continue to serve as his proxy to the Great Plains Tribal Chairman's Health Board. And that's been my body of work over the past several years. And so chairman was very kind to allow me to continue to serve as his proxy. And so I'll continue to do that. So thank you, Coley. But Coley also expressed interest in going to the first meeting so that he can meet the other tribal chairmans and health administrators that attend these meetings, and just introduce himself and I guess whatever he wants to share on behalf of himself. So thank you, Coley, I guess, for being willing to go do that, to meet the other chairmans. And also the discussion came up that would there be a willingness to reschedule our next meeting so that Coley could also come and participate. And so I kind of put that out there for discussion and consideration. So I guess it's two separate things, so I wanted to say that so everybody knows what that is. And so I'd like to vote on that if that's acceptable, and then I guess it would be a separate action if we were to change that meeting date. Or if we would call in, but it doesn't seem like people like that, so I don't want to push that either.
Okay. There was a motion on the floor by Rollin, second by Mel, to approve the travel. Is there any objections to that motion? No objections? Motion passed 7-0. Now there's discussion on changing, I'm not sure on the date on that meeting.
Oh, it's not on the agenda.
Okay, we'll address that later. That does it for this evening. It's a meeting.
Motion to adjourn at 6:27.
Motion to adjourn by Tori, second by Rollin at 6:27 p.m. Thank you, tribal members, for coming this evening. Have a safe trip home.
Thank you, council.